In this video, we're going to talk about React events. We're going to learn how to listen to events, and we're going to learn how to add interactivity to your elements or UI elements in React. So let me bring this over to my other screen so we can focus on the code sandbox. So in the React Shorts number 5 events, we're going to start looking at the top 3 events that you're going to start using right away in React. So events, they allow us to add interactivity to our applications. In React, we can start listening to events really easy. It's not like vanilla JavaScript where we have to add event listeners into grab the elements, and then we can add the event listener. In React, we can do everything just inside of the JSX. So let's start by looking at the onClick event. And in order to do that, we're going to grab the onClick starter here. So let me copy the link so I can just open it here. And in here, we're going to make sure you always fork in the repo. So right, if you click fork, you're gonna get your own copy. And in here, the first thing we're going to do is look at the onClick event. We're going to use a button. Let's start by having a button here, a button element, which is going to just say, click me, like so, save. Right, we have a button here that we can click. So if we want to add an event listener to the button here, we can just go to the button element and we need to type on, and then with camel case we say click, and then we're gonna set that equals to curly brackets, and now here we can pass in a function to be called whenever a onClick event happens on this element. Let's do a quick function here. Let's just call this one handle cons handle click. We like to call our functions handle click, handle submit, handle this, because these are our event handler functions, right? In here we can just console log for now, clicked. Right, so now we have a handle click function which we can attach to the onClick event. Right, we can pass the reference here. We can just type handle click and save. Now that error went away. We can see our app again. So, excuse me. So when the button gets clicked, we're going to call this handle click function. In the handle click function, the only thing we're doing right now is just console logging. In here, you can do any type of logic you need to do, fetch a data, send data, whatever you need to do inside of this function. Right now, we're going to just do a console log so we can focus on how to add event listeners and attach functions to those event listeners, like so. So let's open up the console here and let's click on this button. Right, so if we click on the button, it says clicked, clicked, click, click, clicked, and that number keeps going up and up. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. We go to the element we want to listen on an event. We write the event we want to listen to. And this one is the onClick. And then we define a function which is going to be passed to the inside of the curly brackets to be called later when this event happens. Right, this is our onClick event. We can also we can keep this one here, and let's go back here and let's grab the onChange event. So onChange starter here, let me copy the link, close this one, open this up, paste and go. And on change event starter, we're going to fork it so we can have our own copy and we can do all the changes that we want. Here on the on change, we're going to have a input of type text. So let's just input, put type text, right? So we get this nice input here. Right now we go to the input, we can type, right? So whenever this is a change on the input, we want to listen to that event, right? Whenever the user starts typing on the input. So for the listening for a change inside of this input, we can use the on change events, just like we did on the on click, right? We put the name of the event that we're listening to, curly brackets, and then we're going to pass in a handler function, which is going to be called whenever this event happens. So let's create a variable, a function here, handle change. Notice the name that we picked for the function. This is the handler function. So on the handle change is going to be a little bit different because for this one, I want to, every time there is a event on the input, we could receive the event object. So we're gonna call this one event. So we can take in the event. And from the event, I want to console log the event dot target, which is the input dot value. Now that we have the function, we can pass it to inside of the curly brackets. So handle change like so. So let's open the console here. And then if we start typing here, we're typing and we don't have any console logs here. Let me see. On change, handle change. Right, so we grab the event and then we console log in event.target.value. Let's see, input type on change. My mistake. I spelled it wrong, so that's why it wasn't working. So on change, we're gonna call handle change. Yeah, because that event doesn't exist. So that was my mistake. So if I delete this and start typing again, there we go. Now it's working. So now we can console log every single element, every single value when the on change event happen. Even if you delete, it's going to work because you're making a change inside of that input. So we have a input element of type text and we want to listen to an on change event. So as soon as something changes in here, we want to, this event is going to get triggered. And for this handle change function is a little bit different than the on click. We are taking in the events. You can always take in the events. For this one, we needed it just so we can console log value, because in the other one we just console log click, and this one we can actually console log the value that is available inside of the input. So event.target.value will give us the value from inside the input. Right, pretty similar to what we did with the on click, just a different event. So the last one I want to cover, which we're going to need for later exercises, is the onSubmit. So onSubmit starter, let me copy the link, copy signboard links, open this up, paste and go. And on this one, we want to listen to a onSubmit event. So we're going to need a function, right? So we're going to write out a, we're going to need a form, not a function. Let's do a form. We're also going to need a function. Let's start with the form. So on the form, what I want to do is that I want to listen for a onSubmit, right? So the unsubmit is gonna go in the form here, and we're gonna do that in a second. Let's just put some elements inside of the form. Let's put a input, and let's do a type text, and let's do a placeholder, so we can just say something like search. Let's say this is kind of like a search bar, right? So an input with a placeholder that says search, and at the bottom we want a input of type submit, and for the value we're just gonna say go, like so. All right, so now we have a form. We have a text input that we can type something to search, like what is React or something like that. And then if you click go, this is going to trigger a submission for the form. So when the user clicks on this, we want to listen to this onSubmit event that happens inside the form. So we can do onSubmit. Make sure I'm spelling that right. On submit, we want to call a function. This function is going to be called. So let's just define a handler function, handle submit. In the handle submit, we're going to, let's just pass the reference name here, handle submit, so we can get rid of that red line. Add some space here so it can be more readable. Right, we got the form to inputs. On the handle submit, we're going to handle what's going to happen when the form gets submitted. So the normal behavior, if we save here, and let's just put a console log here first. Console log form was submitted, right? And let's see what happens if we just put a console log here. So if I go and click, you can see that the page kind of refreshes, right? Let's just click on console. Let's try that again. Let's say React and then click go. We get the console log and then the page refreshes, right? This is the normal behavior of a form when it gets submitted. So the first thing we want to do is to stop that from happening, because we don't want to refresh our React applications. Remember, React applications are a single page application, meaning that we only have one index.html file, which is rendering the app inside of the root, just like we saw in the first video. Right, so our application is a single page application. We don't need to refresh our page. We can just stop that from happening, because if we let that happen, we can lose some of the data that is in other components or in the state. We're gonna go over the state in the next video. So the first thing we want to do is we want to grab the event again here, and we want to do event that prevents default, just like we do in regular DOM manipulation from vanilla JavaScript. So first we want to stop the default behavior, meaning don't refresh my page, and just continue with the next line. And in here we'll write all the logic that we need to do. If we need to send data to a backend, we're going to do that later when we're going to be sending data to a backend application from a form just like this one. So on this one, we're just going to keep focus on the listening on the events, right? We're just gonna keep this console log here so we know. And let's now search for, let's see, React again. And let's see if we click go. What happened? Kind of like saw an error going. Let me see if I oh, we need to make sure I spell this correctly again. Default. Let's try that again. And go. Okay, so right there, we prevent the refresh from happening, and then we get the console log here. So if you click again, you submitted the form multiple times, you're calling this function, preventing the default, and just console login form was submitted. Right? And that is listening to the unsubmit on a form component. Right? So now we know how to listen to events on, let's say, on a click event, on a change event, and also on a form. These are the, you can pretty much listen for every single event that you know of before from web development. If you come from like jQuery, vanilla JavaScript, these are the first three we're going to look because we're going to need these three to continue moving forward. But we're going to see how we can do, you know, you can do mouse in, mouse out, check boxes. We're going to do a lot more event listening examples. For now, let's just go continue working on the course with these three so we can continue learning about more features related more to React. All right, so that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.